My name is Varan Karunanantham. I'm co-founder of iConnect Mortgages. I'm here with Mr. Jonathan Griffiths. Jonathan is being in real estate for 45 plus years. And why don't you introduce yourself, Jonathan?
Okay, so I started as a real estate agent. So
real estate, okay.
when I was 19, I got a real estate license. And back then, you couldn't sell part-time, so I take it out in the summers, and I made a lot of money. I was so lucky. Then I took the pay cut, and I decided to be a lawyer. And then when I was just called to the bar, just like 25, I got asked to teach real property law to real estate agents. That was at that stage. It was if you were going to open your own.
Yeah.
So I was just so lucky, and that's how I fell into doing real estate, was from the background. And so it's 45 years now.
My first question to you, Jonathan, what was the worst, toughest deal that you can think in your head that you closed in the last 45 years?
There's so many bad ones.
The one thing like you can pick.
Yeah, they all merge because typically, you'll have them where the client's in jail.
Client's in jail. Huh?
Yeah, client's in jail. So I had one where the client had cut his wife up and kept her in a freezer.
In the house as was going to
In
get
the
sold.
house, yeah. This was probably a stigmatized house, if you think about it.
Oh my goodness.
And so the agent calls me and says, Jonathan, I hesitate to send you this one, but because there's some history. So then I find out. And so the guy's in prison, right? So I have to go to Scarborough East Detention Center, and one of my friends and clients was running the jail at that stage. So I thought, this is going to be fine.
So you have some connections.
So I had some connections. So I thought, this is going to be fine. So I go there, and they won't let me go in as a lawyer because I don't have a criminal lawyer's card.
Yeah.
So I'm out there with all the friends and relatives of the
Individual.
the people who are in.
Yeah.
I'm there with all the hookers and the drug dealers.
Which year was this?
It could be like 8 years ago.
It's not too long ago.
Not too long. No, it might have been 6. So anyway, this nice guy comes out, with his orange outfit, and we have to put all the papers through a slide.
Yeah.
And so he signs all the papers, and then he says, "Oh, Jonathan, thanks so much for coming. God bless." And then he walks out. So we got that one close, but it was quite an experience.
Quite an experience going to the jail.
Going to the jail, and then we have clients who disappear on us. We have clients who won't sign. We have clients with restraining orders. We have lots of clients with no money, especially now. There are lots. So we have we got deals now where there's not enough money to close the deal because they owe more money. Yeah.
So it takes to my next question. So I know you've been around for 45 years. Like we had a crazy market in 80s and 90s, and we are kind of going through the similarities right now. Like how can you relate both markets between 80s and 90s versus right now?
Well, I think we're a lot better off now than we were in the 80s and 90s.
That's a good news.
So it was, yeah. So what happened in the 80s was it was boom and bust. So there was a huge increase in values in 1981, like just monumental. And then the interest rates in 82 went up to 22.5%. And that's when I opened up my own office, was around that time. It was a really good time to start.
Amazing time.
It was an amazing time to start. And so the market ground to a halt, but those were really horrible numbers. And then towards the end, 87, 88, 89, beginning of 89 were just incredible boom times again.
Yeah.
And then the interest rates went up. And I was doing a lot of land deals and development back then. And with all these smart entrepreneurs, and we'd all sit around saying, oh, this is Toronto. Mm-hmm. So GTA, it might level out, but it'll never go down.
They were right in a sense.
Well,
a few years later.
I noticed in about 2003 that we were closing a lot of sales where they'd bought in 89 or 88, and it took them that long to be able to
That's
come out.
That's a very long time.
Yes. Yeah. So it was a very long period of recovery. And I think part of it was, even though we complain about our central bankers now, they were so much worse back then. Mm-hmm. And so in early 91, the interest rates were like 13, 14%. And we could see it was going in the tank, but the Minister of Finance couldn't see it. So at that stage, there wasn't the same sort of central bank. They just kept ramping up the interest rates. Mm-hmm. So I think we've got a much more sensitive way, like the reporting is so much better than it was back then. I think so now, you've got, like, I think last week it came out that the inflation rate was 2.9.
Yeah.
But back then they didn't know it for a year. So everything would go cataclysmic before they would do anything. So I think it's much better now than it was. And we complain about, 5-year mortgages, better than I do, but you can get them in the 5 range.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas back that was 14.5.
Also, the house prices were different.
The house prices were different. Yes. So I think we're in a much better economy, a much more controlled economy.
Okay, that's a good sign.
So,
and also the immigration as well, right?
Oh yeah, we've got the immigration, and I mean back then, what they would do would be, if the prices went up, you just see a whole bunch of new subdivisions open up.
Got it.
So that was kind of so we didn't see the same increases over a long period of time because it was much quicker to go to development back then. There wasn't anything like the same amount of red tape.
So it's more red tapes now.
Oh, so much more red tape now. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
What is the biggest challenge of closing a deal like in this moment? Like I know you mentioned the house prices are like people don't have money to close it.
They don't have money to close. So that is the vast majority of the time. That's the problem, is that people don't have their mortgages. And I go around telling anybody who'll listen, try to use a team, right? And try to use a team where you've got the mortgage broker, the lawyer, even the insurance agent.
Yeah.
So the home inspector. So you use the team. It's cohesive, but we'll find somebody will go into a bank to apply for a mortgage. The people in the bank have no skin in the game, and they'll forget.
Yeah.
They're
done at 5 o'clock.
They're done at 5 o'clock. They've got no. So somebody like you'll stay up all night to get a deal done. I've seen you sweat. It always happens. You always get it done. Yeah. You always fight. So I know if you're doing a deal that it's going to close.
Yeah. Thank you.
But so often people just they go.
They don't get involved.
And the client will use the guy who sings next to them in the church choir, who really doesn't do much mortgages or doesn't
do real estate either.
So it's very, very important to have the right team, because that's always the screw up. And you were telling me when we had a client where they were having trouble closing a deal, right? Because they couldn't get a mortgage. And then you were brilliant enough to know, I don't want to get you in trouble, to know that there was certain mortgage company that
because we have multiple lenders, there's always a solution.
Yeah,
for them, right?
That you can plug them in.
There always is finding a box to fit them in, right? So that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely. So So and you've got a good reputation. You do a lot of volume, and so
you can talk to the lenders.
you're a VIP, right? So some
Thank
little
you.
guy comes along and they're just going to say no, right? Whereas with you, they say, "Hey, it's Varan. It's iConnect. We better not mess this up, or we'll lose a whole income stream." So,
I appreciate Jonathan. What are you seeing in the foreclosures right now?
well, number one is foreclosures is a very American thing. Our law
Power of
here
sale.
is essentially that nobody ever forecloses.
Yeah.
Because if you foreclose, you can't get the rest of the debt out of the borrower.
So
You
they
can't
work,
go after
they
them
work with the
after-
borrower?
Yeah. So they won't go after they can't go after the borrower, and there's also this right to redeem,
Okay.
so that if you foreclose, if they come up with the money, then
Then you are done.
You're
You
done.
have to give the property back.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So you don't. It's very common in the U.S. Here, we're starting to see some powers of sale, but it's not much.
It's not that much compared to
No.
like what. There's a big stigma there. Like, everyone's talking about people are losing houses and all these things.
But not really. I mean, we've got the odd one. I was talking to a guy today who his business had gone bad. So he had lines of credit on his house for his business. And so he sent me his documents, and there was a writ of possession. So the bank's going to grab the house. We're going to try and fight it too.
Yeah.
But it's more like external circumstances. But with the major lenders, it's virtually zero, right?
That's the good news.
Yeah.
Because these are things we need to talk about, because everyone thinks there's pretty bad out there. People are losing houses, rates are going up, so and the lenders are taking the possession of the property.
Yeah.
So it's a good
So it's really the private lenders that are
really.
that they've been tough,
Yeah.
and I think they've been tough on the basis, and this goes back to the 90s, right?
Yeah.
That they don't want to be sitting there while the market gets worse,
So they just want to cash out as.
so they just want to cash out. But my perception is the market's actually getting better rather than worse, at the
Especially over the
moment,
last few weeks.
Especially in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be the same. I don't think it's going to be that bad.
Got it.
Yeah.
What are you seeing with the pre-construction and the builder deals?
So the builder deals are they're the worst. In
And
fact,
the appraisals, right?
because of the appraisals. So what's happened with the builder? And I've talked to a couple of builder lawyers on it, and even last fall they were telling me that's where the real problem's going to be, because you get somebody who spent, they paid a 2.2 million for a property, and now it's worth 1.6.
Yeah.
So
It's a real problem.
it's a real problem. And what surprises me is how people pull money out of a hat. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So we had one guy, I think he paid like a couple of $1 million, and it got appraised. It might have been 1.5, 1.6. So he comes in to close, and he brings in like $950,000 from somewhere,
Okay.
and
you close the
closed the deal. Yeah. And I had another one we signed up yesterday where I don't know where the guy got the money from, but it came.
Make your life easier, Jonathan.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then you get the odd one where they're walking away.
And what are you seeing in terms of the builder? They're not really negotiating. I think they're giving a VTB in some instances.
So what I think with the builders is that they put you to the wall, and they won't give you an inch, and then because they want to squeeze everybody who possibly can to make them close. And then we've seen, like, months later, they'll come back and say, okay, you didn't close. If we give you a VTB, will you come back?
Yeah.
So
This is scare tactic in the
it's a scare tactic, because everybody will just sit there and say, let's just get the builder to give us a reduction in the VTB. So it's so we haven't had terrible stuff on that.
Okay.
Not really. No. It's there will be lawsuits later on, and we do see people walking away from their deposits, but
But they get sued after. But
They get sued after.
But people are still dealing with the 2018 issues right now, 2017, 2018 issues.
Right.
So, yeah.
And just going back to 1990, what we found was people would walk away from their deals and they would think that everything was fine. And let's say they owned another home, like 10 years from then, we'd be trying to sell their other home,
Yeah.
and we'd find the builder had
Lien on it.
Yep, had a judgment. Yeah.
Judgment on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Jonathan, your firm do a lot of transaction, and if you want to close a transaction in a very smooth manner, what day or what date of the month will be the best time to do the deal? So you are not really, the lenders are not busy.
So the worst days probably is a Friday.
Worst days of Friday.
But-
I experienced it today.
But there's a lot of agents that think there's 2 days you can close. The Friday at the 15th and the Friday at the end of the month. And
worst day.
otherwise it's not open, right? So that's
So avoid Fridays.
yeah. So Fridays are the only day to close a deal. So that's the worst, because if something goes wrong and money doesn't come in,
You got to wait till Monday.
then you're stuck over the
What about
weekend.
if it's a long weekend?
And it's a long weekend sometimes. Yeah. So that's a real sweat. And then the other thing is even paying stuff off, particularly if there's bridge
You won't be able to
financing.
courier them.
Yeah, you can't courier them.
Yeah.
And a lot of lenders want their money by 2.
Yeah.
So you're paying interest over the weekend.
Okay, so
whether you
avoid
like it or
Fridays.
not. Fridays is not good.
And what about the month end? Like a lot of people try to do it on the.
Month end is when it gets busy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, Thursdays are good because you can then recover.
Recover, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, when I was walking out the office today, they were all there's somebody buying from our guys where they've had to extend, and they didn't get their mortgage money until 5:00, so they can't close.
So you have to wait till Monday.
So they won't get possession till Monday. Yeah.
So Jonathan, any best practices you can share for clients, realtors, mortgage brokers in terms of having a smoother transaction in your 45 years of experience or wisdom?
I would say get the right guy doing the financing.
Okay. That's pretty much the central of the whole transaction, I guess.
That's usually where it goes wrong.
Okay.
Is the financing.
Yeah.
And as far as lawyers are concerned, I guess you want one who's well known with a good reputation, and also you want somebody who keeps fighting to close. And because you get some lawyers where
the clients agree on the conditions rather than fighting for the
yes,
client.
rather than fighting for it. Because I mean, the main thing for everybody is to avoid going to court.
Yeah.
Because it's there 6 years from now. It's there 4 years from now.
You don't even know what the outcome is going to
It
be.
ruins your life.
Yeah.
And whenever we have lawyers seminars, they're always the judges and the litigation lawyers are always saying, never tell a client what's going to happen because you don't know.
You don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Because the judges now have a tendency they'll work on what they think is fair, and then they'll massage the law to back up that decision.
Correct.
So you just can't tell which way they're going to jump.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is to avoid it.
Got it.
And try to be conciliatory and get everything done. So that's
Perfect. So Jonathan, just for the audience, if they want to reach your firm, how can they get a hold of you, or how can they get a hold of your firm?
So we have 3 offices.
Yep.
We've got one at Don Mills and Eglinton. We've got one at Port Union 401, and then we've got one in Whitby and Brock down by the 401. There's one phone number works everywhere. One email works everywhere. So the phone number is 416-441-1253. And then email, it's just info@griffithslaw.com. As far as me, I always carry a cell phone.
Of course, everyone knows that.
Everybody knows that I carry a cell phone. So my cell phone is 416-917-1000.
Kudos to you to share your cell number. Yeah. I think someone was telling me you picked up the cell phone while you were in the airplane or getting into the airplane.
Oh yeah. Oh, I always try to answer or call back pretty quick. Yeah.
Jonathan, thank you for being here. And
Thanks
if you
for
guys want to
having
reach
me.
me, you guys know where you can find me. Thank you.
Thank you.